Hey guys, it's Hannah Pride. I work here in the UAE helping you build portfolios and double your money. I'm going to be building this YouTube channel to break down investments from top to bottom, outlining where the appreciation is coming from, breaking down the maths to make it simple so you understand what you're actually investing in. So come here and follow along. Palmiera has appreciated by 75% over the last 3 years, and the layouts are one of the main reasons. So let's check them out. Oasis as a whole has over 100 million square foot of land to be developed on. However, there's only going to be 3,500 units within this area. They've really focused on size of not only the built up area, but also the plot. Now, Oasis has already now launched around 7 or 8 clusters. However, there currently is 3 Palmieras and there's been 1 new Palmiera, which we'll talk about later on. Palmiera 1 was the first phase of Emaar Oasis. You can see that it was made up of 4 bedrooms and then 5 bedrooms down the center point. Now, the 4 bedrooms were launched at 8 million dirhams and the 5 bedrooms were launched between 12 and 14 million. 4 beds in 2025 had a median transaction of 11.5 million. However, in January 2026, we've seen an uplift of a 12.5 million median for transactions of 4 beds. 5 beds in 2026, well, there's been none. The reason being is we're seeing these later phases really uplift the appreciation and smart investors are holding on. Palmiera 2 is built behind Palmiera 1 and is made up of only 4 beds. You can see it's distinctly obvious that there's only 1 main lagoon and then 2 smaller lagoons within this cluster. This also had a 90-10 payment plan and handed over 3 months later than Palmiera 1. Palmiera 3 has no lagoon, however it is on an elevated hill and looks over Palmiera 1 and 2. These were launched at around the 9 to 10 million mark and they're currently transacting at around 11.5. These haven't yet seen the same appreciation as Palmiera 1 because there is no lagoon and it has the later handover date. Emaar learned from their mistakes and what they've done with this new community is made 3 differential layouts for each villa that they were building. They took the advice of what they had done wrong in Dubai Hills and made a flooding of Lego houses and decided they would do a variation of different types of villas around Oasis. Now, you have the classic, which is the smallest layout of all of them. Then the contemporary, which is the largest, and the chamfered, which is the medium, most balanced. We're going to dive into the layout of each of these villas, which most investors actually forget to do. They're more caught up on where the villa is located rather than looking at the layout itself to make sure it fits their family's requirements. The classic 4 bedroom. So as I said, this is the smallest layout, being only 5,843 square foot. It has the most compact overall built up area as it has smaller balcony areas compared to the other properties. You'll see itself, you come in through the front door, you have a spare bedroom on the bottom floor, a hidden kitchen, a show kitchen, and an open family dining area. Upstairs, you have your 3 bedrooms and your master bedroom that goes all the way to the right side of the villa. And on the roof terrace, or the second floor, you have a small living room and a balcony terrace. As I said, this is the smallest terrace space out of all of the 4 bedrooms in Palmiera. The contemporary 4 bedroom is the largest. It already surpasses 6,274 square foot. You can distinctly see the larger balcony spaces on the second floor. It also has the exact same layout as the classic and as the chamfered, which we will next see on the downstairs. However, there is it has the same layout as the 4 bedroom in the classic, and what you'll notice around all of the 4 bedrooms in Palmiera is they are very similar. There's only small differentiations on the outsides and on the insides, which really pulls them apart. Huge emphasis on indoor-outdoor living, and as I said, a larger balcony space. Then you go to the chamfered. This is the most balanced. It still has the larger terrace on the front. However, they have reduced the space on the up floor to bring it to just a little bit smaller than the contemporary. However, it's still to that large scale. Now, the Palmiera 5 beds. What they've done a little bit different with the 5 beds in Palmiera is there's 2 types of classics. This includes one with a basement and one also with the basement along with the roof terrace. It's to give that larger feel and really emphasize on these additional spaces that can be converted into a gym, a cinema room, indoor-outdoor living to really take advantage of the relaxation that you're going to see on the lagoon. The classic again is the smallest layout and the contemporary is the largest. Classic one. So you can see the main difference here is we have a balcony, a basement for the first time. We also have another emphasis on this roof terrace. This is really going to allow families to take advantage of watching sunset, sunrise, and looking over the lagoon. This is 8,647 square foot. To put this into comparison, this is the same size, even larger than a 5-bed large and a 6-bed in Gaff, which the reason I'm announcing this is because we use this as a direct comparable of where the prices are really going to reach in Emaar Oasis. As I said, the price per square foot is around 2,000 right now in Emaar Oasis. However, the comparable of Gaff is 2,850. So we still have around 850 appreciation to still see on these villas. The Classic 2. Now you can see the main difference between the Classic 2 and the Classic 1 is there's no basement and there's no roof terrace. They've only got the basement, the ground floor and the first floor. And the size is around 700 square foot, different than the Classic 1. This would be more suitable for people that want to condense the space, are still looking for a 5-bed, but a more conservative price point. It's 7,500, so again, still 1,000 square feet bigger than the 4-bed, but not as big as the 5-bed larges as we would call them. Then you have the contemporary. This again is 8,649 square foot. It's huge. In the Palmiera, 5 beds and 4 beds, your 5 beds are around 7,500 to 8,500 built up, and your plot size are around 8,500 to 9,500. Your Palmiera 4 beds are upwards of around 6,000 a square foot built up, and then your plot size is between 7,000 and 8,000 a square foot. These are similar sizes to Jumeirah Islands, and this is why in previous videos you'll have seen me compare Oasis as the new contemporary Jumeirah Islands rather than what some people say is Dubai Hills. I just don't think it's a like for like, whereas Jumeirah Islands has the lagoon, has the plot sizes and has the same built up as what we're seeing now in the Oasis. This is a modern aesthetic, and you'll also see the basement space can be turned into a small cinema, and you have these great areas where you can look down onto the basement space to really see the brightness coming into the property. The chamfered 5-bedroom. This is just under 8,000 a square foot. It's one of the smallest, but again, the most compact. What you'll see if I go back to the outskirts, as I said, Oasis have really kept it simple with the 3 styles of properties they've done, but the chamfered has a lot less balcony spaces. You can see here, it's just a small one. Whereas the contemporary wraps around the property, again, the classic keeps it small and tight. It really comes down to what your preference is to the types of property that you think is going to fit your family. These are all very, very withstanding properties that aren't going to time. They're very, very bright and they have a lot of aspects that are going to make your house feel warm and nice, depending how you keep it. The chamfered. As I said, there's no rooftop terrace and there's no basement. No, there is a basement, but there is no rooftop terrace, and that is how they've pulled the square footage down to make it the most compact style. Now, as I said, there's now been an additional Palmiera launch. So I'm just going to show you it. This is Palmiera 1. This was the first phase to come out. Then it was Palmiera 2. As I said, they only had a little lagoon here, a little lagoon here, and a little lagoon here. And then you had Palmiera 3, which is the top. elevated on a hill, so looks down towards Palmiera 1 and Palmiera 2. Now, last week we had Palmiera 3 launch. This is very similar to Palmiera 2, just again following along the 4 beds only within Palmiera 2. But what you'll notice as a huge difference is these property sizes are even bigger than Palmiera 1, 2 and 3. They reach all the way up to 8,899. A lot of investors have been looking here because if you compare that, these are the same size as a 6-bed large, if not bigger, in Tel Gaf, which are transacting at 20 million. These were launched at 16 million, and this is why people keep going back to the Oasis to see what Emaar are building to bring that unique spot. And when you compare of how big Emaar Oasis is itself, to have only 3,500 units, you can see why they're bringing to market these huge scales, because it's the same size of development as Dubai Hills. However, Dubai Hills has 27,000 families that live here. There can only be 3,500 here. And this again has got the basement, the ground floor, first floor, and roof floor, which obviously they need to have being that larger properties. And there was only 38 villas of these. It's called the Palmiera Collective because they're the largest Palmieras out of them all. If you want information of resales or new and up and coming developments for Emaar Oasis, let me know and I'd be happy to go through it with you.